My life with Sarah seemed perfect. Every morning I woke up to the soft light filtering through the curtains of our bedroom, the scent of coffee wafting from the kitchen, and the sound of her humming as she prepared breakfast. We had a routine, a rhythm that felt unbreakable. I was successful in my career, respected in my field, and Sarah, well, she was the woman I had always dreamed of. From the moment we met, I was hooked. Her laugh, her smile, the way she could light up a room just by walking into it. I fell hard and fast, and she became my world. Our marriage was built on what I thought was a foundation of trust and love. We shared everything, dreams, fears, and plans for the future. Sarah was my confidant, my lover, and my best friend. We had our moments, like any couple, but nothing that ever made me question the strength of our bond. I took pride in our life together, the home we created, and the love we nurtured. But looking back now, I realize how blind I was, how I missed the signs that were right in front of me. It started with little things. Sarah became distant, more secretive. She started spending more time at work, coming home later than usual. I noticed her checking her phone more often, quickly hiding the screen when I walked into the room. At first, I didn't think much of it. We all have busy periods at work, and Sarah was ambitious. But then I began to sense a change in her, a coldness in her touch, a hesitation in her voice. The intimacy that once flowed naturally between us became strained, almost forced. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, I saw it, the look in her eyes. It was fleeting, just a momentary flash of something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, perhaps, or maybe fear. It gnawed at me, but I brushed it aside, convincing myself I was imagining things. After all, Sarah loved me, didn't she? But the doubts lingered, growing stronger each day. I started paying closer attention, watching for any clue that might explain the change in her. Then one night, I found it. A text message on her phone, hidden under a generic contact name. It was nothing explicit, just a simple, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." But it was enough to make my heart drop. The pieces began to fall into place, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I waited until she was asleep, her phone clutched in her hand, before I slipped it out and scrolled through the messages. There it was, the truth staring back at me. Sarah was involved with someone else. The words on the screen blurred as anger and betrayal surged through me. Everything I believed about our life, our love, shattered in that moment. I knew then that nothing would ever be the same. I stare at the screen, my heart pounding as I tried to make sense of the messages. My wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone, is having an affair with her boss. The words jump out at me, intimate, secretive, laced with the kind of excitement she hasn't shown toward me in years. My chest tightens, a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief swirling inside me. How could I have missed this? How could she do this to us, to everything we built together? The room feels too small, the air too thick. I can't breathe, can't think. My mind races back to all those moments when something didn't feel right. The late nights at the office, the sudden need to check her phone in another room, the way she'd pull away from me in bed. I thought it was stress, just the wear and tear of life. But now I see it for what it is, her slipping away from me, one lie at a time. I scroll through the messages again, my hand trembling. I need to be sure, need to confirm what my gut is already telling me. The texts are careful, never too explicit, but the meaning is clear. They've been meeting for months, maybe longer. She talks about him with a tenderness that makes me sick, a longing that used to be reserved for me. I can almost hear her voice in those words, the way she must laugh at his jokes, the way she looks at him with those eyes I once thought were mine alone. The anger surges, hot and immediate. I want to storm into the bedroom, wake her up, and demand answers. But I don't. I know Sarah, know how she'll deny it, twist it, make me feel like I'm the one going crazy. No, I need to be smarter than that. I need proof, something undeniable, something she can't talk her way out of. I spend the next few days in a haze, barely able to function. At work, I go through the motions, but my mind is elsewhere, replaying the messages, imagining them together. I start watching her more closely, tracking her movements, her conversations. Every time she smiles at her phone, my stomach turns. I'm looking for something, anything, to confirm that this nightmare is real. One night I follow her when she says she's meeting a friend for dinner. My hands grip the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turn white. I keep a safe distance, my heart pounding in my ears. When she pulls into the parking lot of a hotel, everything inside me shatters. I watch as she gets out of the car, checks her reflection in the window, and walks inside. There's no hesitation, no second thoughts. She's done this before. I wait in the car, the minutes stretching into what feels like hours. I imagine them in there, the things they're doing, the way he touches her. My vision blurs with rage. I want to go in there, drag her out, make her face what she's done. But I don't. I need to think, need to plan. This won't end with just a confrontation. I want them to suffer, to feel the same pain I'm feeling now. When she finally comes out, it's late. She's smiling, her hair a little tousled, her blouse slightly wrinkled. She looks satisfied, content in a way I haven't seen in months. She doesn't see me as she gets into her car and drives home. I wait until she's out of sight before starting my own car, the cold resolve settling in my bones. This won't be a simple divorce. They've taken something from me, and I'm going to take everything from them. The next morning I confront her. I'm calm, too calm. She's in the kitchen making coffee when I tell her I know about the affair. The cup slips from her hand, shattering on the floor. For a moment she's frozen, her eyes wide with shock. Then she starts denying it, saying it's not what I think, that I've misunderstood. But I can see it in her eyes. She knows she's caught. "Don't lie to me, Sarah," I say, my voice low, dangerous. "I followed you last night. I know everything." She tries to reach for me, but I step back, the disgust evident in my face. Her pleas are desperate, but I don't hear them. All I can think about is the betrayal, the way she let another man touch her, the way she laughed with him, shared with him what should have been ours alone. My mind flashes back to the messages, the hotel, the way she smiled when she left. It makes my skin crawl. "I'm done, Sarah," I say, cutting her off. "You've made your choice, and now you're going to live with it." I leave her standing there, her face crumpled with the realization that there's no talking her way out of this. But it's not enough. The rage inside me demands more. I want her to feel the same devastation she's caused me, to see everything she loves crumble to dust. And him, her boss, the man she's been sneaking around with, he's going to pay too. I start with small things, subtle changes that make her life just a bit more difficult. I cancel her credit cards, move money out of our joint accounts, and make sure she can't access the things she's taken for granted. When she tries to use her card at the grocery store, it's declined. When she checks her bank balance, it's empty. I watch her confusion turn to panic, and it gives me a twisted sense of satisfaction. At work, I dig deeper into her boss's life. He's a powerful man, well-connected, but everyone has secrets. It doesn't take long to find his. I gather the information I need, quietly, carefully. His marriage isn't as perfect as it appears, and he's made some shady business deals that could ruin him if they ever came to light. I collect it all, like pieces of a puzzle, waiting for the right moment to put it all together. Sarah starts to notice the changes in me. She tries to talk to me, to mend what's been broken, but I'm not interested. The sight of her disgusts me. Her voice grates on my nerves. The love I once felt is buried under layers of anger and betrayal. I want to hurt her, make her feel as small and insignificant as she's made me feel. One night, she comes to me in bed, wearing the silk nightgown I used to love. She tries to touch me, to rekindle the passion we once had, but I push her away. The thought of being with her now makes my skin crawl. I see the hurt in her eyes, but it only fuels my determination. She chose him over me, and now she has to live with that choice. I spend hours in front of the computer, piecing together my plan. I forge emails, create fake documents, anything that will lead back to her boss. It's not enough to destroy their personal lives. I want to ruin their careers, their reputations. I want them to feel the same helplessness, the same loss of control that I've felt since the moment I discovered the truth. Sarah's life begins to unravel. Her friends stop calling, her colleagues distance themselves. She's left with nothing but the man she betrayed me for, and even that won't last long. I make sure of it. I send the information I've gathered to his wife, to his business partners, to anyone who will listen. The fallout is immediate. His wife leaves him, taking the kids and half his assets. His business partners pull out of deals, leaving him financially ruined. Sarah comes home one day, her face pale, her hands shaking. She tries to talk to me, to explain, but I don't want to hear it. I tell her to pack her things and get out. The house, the life we built together, it's all mine now. She pleads with me, but I've made up my mind. She's no longer the woman I married. She's just a stranger, someone I used to know. As she packs her bags, I watch her, feeling nothing but a cold satisfaction. She brought this on herself. She made her choices and now she has to live with the consequences. But even as she walks out the door, I feel a strange emptiness inside. I've won. I've gotten my revenge. But at what cost? The life I once loved is gone, replaced by this hollow victory. I turn back to the house, now quiet and empty. The anger that fueled me for so long is starting to fade, leaving behind a numbness I can't shake. I've destroyed them, just as I planned, but I can't escape the feeling that I've destroyed a part of myself in the process. I sit down at the kitchen table, staring at the empty seat across from me. This was supposed to make me feel better, but it doesn't. The satisfaction I expected is fleeting, replaced by a gnawing sense of loss. I've won, but I don't feel like a victor. I feel like a man who's lost everything, including the person he used to be. I reach for the bottle of whiskey in the cabinet, pouring myself a glass. The burn as it goes down my throat is the only thing that feels real right now. I drink until the numbness takes over, until I can't think about what I've done or what I've lost. The next morning I wake up on the couch, the empty bottle on the floor beside me. My head pounds and my mouth is dry, but it's the emptiness that's hardest to bear. I got my revenge, but now I'm left with nothing. No wife, no home, no future. Just this hollow shell of a man who once had everything. I drag myself to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. I stare at my reflection in the mirror, trying to recognize the man looking back at me. He's a stranger, someone I don't know anymore. Someone who let his anger consume him, who let his need for revenge destroy the life he once cherished. I turn away from the mirror, unable to face the truth of what I've become. The man who once loved Sarah with all his heart is gone, replaced by this empty, bitter shell. I've won, but I've also lost, and I don't know if I can ever get back what I've thrown away. As I sit on the edge of the bed, I feel the weight of my actions pressing down on me. The revenge I sought has left me with nothing but regret. I've destroyed the lives of two people, but in the process, I've destroyed myself as well. The house is silent, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall. I realize that this is my life now, alone, empty, and full of regrets. I had everything, and I let it slip through my fingers in a fit of anger and betrayal. I lie back on the bed staring up at the ceiling. The future stretches out before me, bleak and uncertain. I don't know what comes next, but I do know one thing. I can't keep living like this. I need to find a way to move on, to rebuild my life from the ashes of what I've destroyed. But as I close my eyes, all I can think about is Sarah and the life we once had. I don't know if I can ever forgive her or myself for what's happened, but I do know that I need to try. Because if I don't, I'll be lost forever, trapped in this cycle of anger and regret with no way out. I start small. My first move is subtle, almost imperceptible. I log into our joint bank account and transfer just enough money to my private savings that it doesn't raise immediate alarms. I know Sarah checks our finances, but not obsessively. This gives me time to make my next move. I need to hurt her where it counts, And nothing says pain like financial instability. I'm careful not to leave traces, but I want her to feel the uncertainty, the fear of losing control. Sarah begins to notice the changes. She comes to me one evening, her brow furrowed, holding her phone as if it might explode. "Have you noticed anything strange with the bank account?" she asks, her voice laced with confusion rather than suspicion. I keep my face neutral, glancing at the screen as if I'm just as concerned. "What do you mean?" "There's less money than there should be," she says, biting her lip, something she does when she's nervous. "I thought we were doing fine." "We are," I reply smoothly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let me look into it." "I'm sure it's just a mistake." She nods, visibly relieved, and I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. But then I remember what she's done, and any pity evaporates. I know this is only the beginning of her unraveling. As the days pass, I intensify my efforts. I start by feeding misinformation to Sarah's boss through a series of anonymous emails. I make it look like insider tips, small details that would seem insignificant if not combined with the right rumors. It doesn't take long for these seeds to sprout into full-blown paranoia. I watch from a distance as his confidence begins to crack, as he starts to question the loyalty of those around him. The fear in his eyes during meetings is almost palpable, and it's a fear I know all too well. Fear of losing everything. Meanwhile, I can see Sarah starting to fray at the edges. She's more jumpy, more distracted. She's noticing things, missing money, odd looks from colleagues, but she can't quite put the pieces together. The tension between us grows thicker every day. She tries to bridge the gap with small gestures, dinners, casual touches, but I pull away, letting her stew in the uncertainty. One night, I take it a step further. I send an email to her boss's wife from a fake account, hinting at an affair. Nothing direct, just enough to plant a seed of doubt. I know she'll confront him, and I know how he'll react. He'll deny it, of course, but the damage will be done. Trust will be shattered, and I'll be there to watch it all fall apart. As expected, the fallout begins. Sarah's boss starts making mistakes at work, his judgment clouded by the chaos in his personal life. He snaps at his staff, loses deals, and his once unshakable confidence turns to desperate arrogance. The board begins to question his decisions, and the whispers of a possible replacement grow louder. I make sure those whispers reach the right ears, carefully guiding the narrative to its inevitable conclusion. Sarah is spiraling too. She comes home one night, late, looking exhausted and defeated. She collapses onto the couch without a word, her eyes hollow. I can see the toll it's taking on her, the weight of everything pressing down until she's almost crushed by it. I sit beside her, keeping my distance but close enough to feel the heat of her body. The room is silent except for the ticking of the clock, and it's in that silence that she finally breaks. "I don't know what's happening anymore," she whispers, her voice trembling. "Everything is falling apart. I can't do this." There's a part of me that wants to comfort her, to pull her into my arms and tell her it'll be okay. But I can't, not after what she's done. Instead, I lean back, my voice cold and detached. "Maybe you should talk to him about it." Her head snaps up, her eyes wide with shock. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about, Sarah," I say, my tone sharp. "Your boss, the man you've been sneaking around with, maybe he can help you figure this out." For a moment, she just stares at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Then, as if the reality of her situation finally hits her, tears well up in her eyes. She tries to say something, to explain, to justify, but I don't want to hear it. "Save it," I snap, cutting her off. "I've seen the messages. I know everything." She crumples then, her body shaking with sobs as she buries her face in her hands. I watch her break, the anger in me simmering just below the surface, but it doesn't bring the satisfaction I thought it would. Instead, there's an emptiness, a hollow victory that leaves me feeling colder than before. The days that follow are a blur of calculated moves and growing tension. Sarah's boss is on the brink of losing everything: his job, his family, his reputation. I've made sure of that. He's a wreck, barely holding it together, and Sarah isn't far behind. She's lost weight, her clothes hanging loosely on her frame, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. She's a shell of the woman I once knew, and I should feel triumphant, but all I feel is a gnawing void. I push forward with my plan, unable to stop even if I wanted to. I start leaking information to the press, carefully crafting a narrative that paints Sarah's boss as a corrupt, immoral figure unfit to lead. The story spread like wildfire, and soon his name is plastered across every headline, his face on every news channel. His downfall is swift and brutal, and there's no recovering from it. Sarah is caught in the crossfire. She's summoned into meetings, questioned about her involvement, her loyalty. The whispers in the office grow louder, turning into outright accusations. Her once solid position begins to crumble beneath her feet, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. I've made sure of that. One evening she comes home, her face ashen, her hands trembling. "They fired me," she says, her voice hollow. "They said I was involved in things I didn't even know about." I stare at her, my expression unreadable. "And were you?" "No," she exclaims, her voice rising in desperation. "I would never. How could you even think that?" "Because I don't know who you are anymore, Sarah," I reply, my voice cold. "I don't know what you're capable of." Her face crumples at my words and she sinks onto the couch, looking lost and defeated. "What happened to us?" she whispers, more to herself than to me. "How did we get here?" I don't have an answer for her. I don't know how we got here, but I know there's no going back. The woman I loved, the life we had, it's all gone, destroyed by her betrayal and my need for revenge. The next day I watch the final piece of my plan fall into place. Sarah's boss is officially removed from his position, disgraced and humiliated. His wife leaves him, taking their children and half of everything he owns. He's left with nothing, just like I intended. Sarah is a wreck. She barely eats, barely sleeps. She doesn't even try to talk to me anymore. The silence between us is deafening, the distance unbridgeable. I've won, but at what cost? I thought revenge would bring me closure, that it would fill the void left by her betrayal. But all it's done is hollow me out even more. I've destroyed them, just as I planned, but I've also destroyed myself in the process. One night after Sarah has gone to bed, I sit in the darkened living room, staring at the empty space where she once sat beside me, laughing, talking, loving me. The man I've become is a stranger, driven by anger and bitterness. I don't recognize myself anymore. I can't live like this. I can't keep pretending that this emptiness, this cold, hollow victory is enough. I've won the battle, but I've lost the war. I've lost everything that once mattered, and I don't know how to get it back. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of resolve. I can't undo what's been done, but maybe I can find a way to move forward, to piece together the remnants of my life. I don't know if it's possible, but I have to try. Sarah avoids me, her eyes downcast, her movements slow and lethargic. She's a shadow of the woman I once knew, and it's all my doing. I thought I could punish her, make her pay for what she did, but all I've done is create a chasm between us that I'm not sure we can ever cross. I try to reach out to her, to talk, but the words catch in my throat. What do I say? How do I begin to repair the damage I've done? Every time I look at her, I see the betrayal, the lies, but I also see the woman I once loved, the woman who's now broken because of me. The silence between us stretches on, heavy and suffocating. I don't know how to bridge the gap, how to find the words that might start to heal what's been torn apart. All I know is that I can't keep living like this, in this cold, empty house filled with nothing but regret. One night, as we lie in bed, separated by a chasm of hurt and anger, I reach out to her. My hand brushes against hers and she flinches, but she doesn't pull away. It's the first contact we've had in weeks, and it feels both foreign and familiar, like touching something precious that I've long forgotten how to hold. "Sarah," I whisper, my voice breaking. "I'm sorry." She doesn't respond, but she doesn't pull away either. I take it as a sign, a small crack in the wall we've built between us. I don't know if it's enough, but it's all I have. We lie there in the darkness, the weight of everything pressing down on us. But for the first time in a long time, there's a glimmer of something else. Hope, maybe, or at least the possibility of it. The next day, I make a decision. I can't undo what's been done, but I can try to make amends, to start rebuilding from the ashes of what I've destroyed. I reach out to Sarah, and this time, she meets my gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of pain and something else. Something that might be forgiveness if I'm lucky. I want to talk, I say, my voice steady but soft. I want to try to fix this, if we can. She hesitates, her eyes searching mine for any sign of deception, any hint that this is just another part of my twisted game. But all she finds is the truth. Raw, painful, but honest. Okay, she finally says, her voice barely above a whisper. It's a start, and for now that's enough. The road ahead is uncertain, filled with obstacles and scars that may never fully heal. But it's a road I'm willing to walk if it means there's a chance, no matter how small, that we can find our way back to each other. As we sit down to talk, the tension still thick between us, I realize that this is just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. But for the first time in a long time, I feel something other than anger, something other than emptiness. I feel hope. The tension is unbearable. Each day, I watch Sarah unravel further, her once vibrant spirit dulled by the weight of everything that's happened. Her face is pale, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow, and she moves through the house like a ghost. I've achieved what I set out to do. I've broken her, destroyed the life she thought she had. But as I sit alone in the silence of our once lively home, I can't escape the nagging emptiness that has settled deep within me. The day after our tentative conversation, Sarah comes to me with an unexpected request. "Can we talk?" she asks, her voice barely more than a whisper. I'm caught off guard. There's no anger in her tone, no bitterness. It's a simple plea, raw and vulnerable. I nod, gesturing to the couch, and we sit down together for the first time in weeks. For a long time, neither of us speaks. The air is thick with everything that's been left unsaid, with the ghosts of our past, both recent and distant. Finally, Sarah breaks the silence. "I don't know how we got here," she begins, her voice trembling. "I don't even recognize myself anymore. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you." The words cut through me like a knife, sharp and painful. But I don't interrupt. I need to hear her out, to understand how the woman I love turned into someone I barely know. "I made a mistake," she continues, tears welling in her eyes. "I let things spiral out of control, and I didn't know how to stop it. But I never stopped loving you. I never wanted to lose you." Her confession stirs something inside me, an anger I've been holding on to, but also a deep sadness that I've kept buried. "You had a choice, Sarah," I say, my voice low and controlled. "You chose him over me, over us." "I know," she says, her voice cracking. "I know I did. And I hate myself for it. But it wasn't just about him. It was about us, about what we lost along the way." Her words hit home, and I feel the walls I've built around myself start to crumble. She's right. Things weren't perfect between us before the affair. We had drifted apart, become strangers living under the same roof. But her betrayal felt like the ultimate betrayal, the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she says, wiping away tears. "I don't deserve it. But I'm asking for a chance to at least try to fix this, to figure out what went wrong and see if there's anything left to save." I stare at her, my emotions warring within me. I've spent so much time plotting my revenge, tearing her down piece by piece, that I never stopped to consider what might be left when the dust settled. Now, looking at her, I see the woman I fell in love with, broken and flawed, but still there. And I wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's a part of me that still loves her too. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I admit, my voice heavy with the weight of the truth. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget what you did. She nods, accepting my words without argument. I understand. But maybe we can start by trying to understand each other again, to find out if there's anything worth salvaging. It's a tentative offer, a fragile hope, but it's more than I've had in a long time, and I find myself wanting to take it. I nod slowly, not trusting myself to speak. The path ahead is uncertain, filled with pain and anger, but for the first time I feel like there's a possibility of something beyond that, something worth fighting for. We spend the next few days talking, really talking, for the first time in months. It's not easy. The wounds are still fresh, the anger and hurt just beneath the surface, but we're both trying. Sarah is honest, painfully so, about her reasons for the affair. She talks about how she felt lost, disconnected from me, how the attention from her boss made her feel wanted, alive. It's hard to hear, but I need to know, to understand why she did what she did. I share my own feelings too, how her betrayal shattered me, how I became consumed with the need to hurt her as much as she hurt me. I confess to my role in her boss's downfall, to the lengths I went to destroy them both. She listens, tears streaming down her face, but she doesn't judge. She just listens, absorbing the weight of what I've done. I don't know if we can ever go back to what we were, I say one night, after we've exhausted ourselves with talking. But maybe we can find a way forward, something new. Sarah looks at me, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. I want that, she says softly. I want to try. It's a start, a fragile beginning to something that may or may not survive the scars we've inflicted on each other. But it's something, and for now it's enough. In the days that follow, we begin to rebuild our lives, piece by piece. It's not easy. The trust that was shattered between us can't be repaired overnight, and there are moments when the past looms large, threatening to pull us back into the darkness. But we push through, determined to find a way forward. I start to let go of the anger that has fueled me for so long. It's a slow process, but with each passing day, I feel a little lighter, a little more at peace with what's happened. I'm not there yet, not completely, but I'm trying. Sarah, too, begins to heal. She's still fragile, still haunted by what she's done and the consequences of her actions. But she's trying. We both are. And that's all we can do. Try. One day, as we sit together in the living room, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, Sarah reaches out and takes my hand. Thank you, she says quietly. For what? I ask, genuinely surprised. For giving us a chance, she replies. For not walking away. I look at her, really look at her, and for the first time in a long time, I see the woman I fell in love with. She's still there, beneath the pain and the mistakes, and I realize that I've been holding on to her all along, even when I thought I was letting go. I'm not ready to walk away, I admit. Not yet. We sit in silence holding hands, and for a moment, it feels like we found a sliver of peace in the midst of the chaos. It's not much, but it's a start. But peace is fleeting, and the past is never far behind. The next day, I receive a call from an unknown number. It's her boss's wife, the woman whose life I've torn apart. She's calling to tell me that her husband has filed for divorce, that their marriage is over, and she blames me for everything. You ruined my life, she says, her voice thick with anger and tears. You destroyed my family. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew what I was doing when I set out to ruin him, but hearing the pain in her voice, knowing that I've caused so much damage, it's almost too much to bear. I'm sorry, I say, though the words feel hollow. What good is an apology after the damage has been done? Sorry doesn't fix anything, she snaps, and then she hangs up, leaving me with the crushing weight of what I've done. I sit there for a long time, the phone still in my hand, trying to process the fallout of my actions. I wanted revenge and I got it, but at what cost? I've destroyed not just my own life, but the lives of others, innocent people who didn't deserve this. That night I can't sleep. The guilt gnaws at me, relentless and unforgiving. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'll ever find peace, or if I'm doomed to be haunted by my choices forever. In the morning, I tell Sarah about the call. I don't hide anything from her anymore. She listens quietly, her expression unreadable. You did what you thought you had to do, she says after a long silence, but now we have to live with it. Her words are a bitter pill to swallow, but she's right. I made my choices, and now I have to face the consequences. The days blur together as I try to find a way to move forward. Sarah and I continue to work on rebuilding what we've lost. But it's hard. The weight of everything we've been through hangs over us like a dark cloud, and I don't know if we'll ever be free of it. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Sarah suggests we go out for dinner. It's a small gesture, but it feels significant, like a step toward reclaiming some semblance of normalcy. We choose a quiet restaurant, away from the places we used to frequent. The atmosphere is calm, almost serene, and for a little while, it feels like we're just a normal couple, trying to reconnect. As we sit across from each other, I feel a surge of emotion that I haven't felt in a long time. It's not anger or pain, but something softer, something that feels almost like hope. I reach across the table and take Sarah's hand, and she squeezes it gently, offering me a small, tentative smile. We talk about everything but the past, our favorite books, movies we want to see, places we'd like to visit. It's light, easy conversation, and for a moment, it feels like we found a way to step out of the shadows that have been looming over us. But as the night wears on, reality sets back in. We can't escape what's happened, no matter how much we try to distract ourselves. The wounds are still there, raw and unhealed, and I know it will take more than a few dinners and conversations to mend them. As we drive home, the tension creeps back in, the silence between us heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. When we get home, Sarah turns to me, her expression serious. We can't keep pretending that everything's okay, she says quietly. We have to face this, head on, if we have any chance of moving forward. I nod, knowing she's right. We've been skirting around the real issues, trying to build something new without fully addressing the past. It's not sustainable, and deep down, we both know it. That night, we sit down and have the hardest conversation we've had yet. We talk about the affair, about my revenge, about the damage we've both caused. It's brutal, raw, and painful, but it's necessary. We lay everything bare, stripping away the lies and half-truths until there's nothing left but the raw, unvarnished truth. By the end of it, we're both emotionally exhausted, but there's a sense of relief too, as if we've finally torn down the last barriers between us. We're exposed, vulnerable, but we're also closer to each other than we've been in a long time. As we lie in bed that night, I feel a strange sense of peace settle over me. It's not complete, not by a long shot, but it's a start. We've taken the first steps toward healing, and while the road ahead is still long and uncertain, I'm ready to walk it, with Sarah by my side if she's willing. I'm not giving up on us, I whisper into the darkness. Sarah doesn't reply, but she doesn't pull away either. Instead, she reaches for my hand, holding it tightly as if to anchor us both. And in that simple gesture, I find the strength to keep going, to keep fighting for whatever future we might have together. We've both made mistakes, both caused each other immeasurable pain, but we're still here, still trying. And maybe that's enough, for now. The fallout from everything I've done surrounds me, suffocating. Sarah's life is in ruins, just as I planned. Her job is gone, her reputation shattered, and the woman who once walked with confidence now drifts through our home like a ghost. Her boss, no, her former boss, is in a worse state. He's a broken man, his career decimated, his marriage over, and his name synonymous with scandal. I wanted this. I wanted to see them both on their knees, begging for mercy that I would never grant. And I got it. But now as I sit alone in the dark, the victory I craved feels hollow. The emptiness inside me has only grown, gnawing at my insides, leaving me with nothing but questions. Was it worth it? Did I win, or did I lose everything in the process? Days bleed into nights, and I can't escape the feeling that I've destroyed more than just their lives. I've destroyed myself. The man I was before this all began, The man who loves Sarah with every fiber of his being is gone. In his place is someone I don't recognize. Someone cold, vindictive, and lost. Sarah tries to reach out to me, her eyes pleading for something. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe just an acknowledgement that we still exist as a couple, as something more than the ruins of our past. But I can't give her that. I'm not sure I have anything left to give. One evening, she comes to me with a letter in her hand. She's trembling, her face pale. "It's from his wife," she says quietly, placing the letter on the table between us. I stare at it, the words blurring together. I don't need to read it to know what it says. The wife of the man I destroyed wants to meet, wants to confront me about what I've done. She wants answers, maybe revenge of her own. I can't blame her. "I'm not going," I say finally, my voice flat. Sarah looks at me, her eyes searching mine. "Why not?" "Because what's the point?" "What good will it do?" She sighs, a long, weary sound that seems to come from deep within her. "We need to face this, both of us. We can't keep hiding from what we've done." There's that word again. We. As if we're still a team, still in this together. But are we? Can we be? I don't know anymore. Reluctantly, I agree to meet the woman whose life I've torn apart. We choose a neutral location, a small cafe in a quiet part of town. The air is thick with tension as we sit across from each other, the silence heavy, oppressive. She's not what I expected. I thought she'd be angry, vengeful, ready to lash out at me with all the fury I know she must feel. But she's calm, almost eerily so. Her eyes are tired, her expression resigned. "Why did you do it?" she asked finally, her voice soft but unwavering. I don't have an easy answer. How do I explain the rage that consumed me? The need to tear down everything Sarah held dear as a way to cope with my own pain? How do I justify the destruction I've caused? I wanted them to suffer, I admit, my voice hollow. I wanted them to feel the same pain I felt. She nods as if she expected this answer. And did it help? Did it make you feel better? I don't answer right away. I'm not sure I can. Finally, I shake my head. No, it didn't. She looks at me for a long moment, and in her eyes I see something I didn't expect. Pity, not for herself, but for me. "You've lost just as much as I have," she says quietly. "Maybe even more." Her words hit me harder than I thought they would. I want to deny it, to reject the idea that I'm a victim in all of this. But the truth is, she's right. I've lost my marriage, my peace of mind, my sense of self. I've become a man I never wanted to be. As the meeting comes to an end, she stands up, looking down at me with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "I don't forgive you," she says, her voice firm, "but I hope you find a way to forgive yourself." I watch her walk away, her words echoing in my mind. Forgive myself? How can I do that when I've done so much wrong? When I return home, Sarah is waiting for me. She looks at me with those same pleading eyes, but this time, I see something different. Strength. She's been broken, but she's still standing, still fighting for us, for something that might be beyond saving. "What did she say?" Sarah asks, her voice tentative. "She said she doesn't forgive me," I reply, my voice heavy, "but she hopes I can forgive myself." Sarah doesn't say anything, but the silence between us feels different now, less oppressive, more contemplative. I can see the pain in her eyes, the guilt that's eating away at her, just as it's eating away at me. But I can also see something else, a determination to make things right, to rebuild what we've lost, if that's even possible. "I want to try," she says finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to try to forgive myself too. And you." Her words hang in the air between us, fragile and tentative, but they spark something in me. A glimmer of hope, a faint possibility that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way forward. I don't know how to fix this, I admit, my voice rough with emotion. But I want to try too. It's a small step, but it's a step nonetheless. We start by talking, really talking, without the walls we've built around ourselves. It's painful, raw, and uncomfortable, but it's necessary. We lay everything bare. No more secrets, no more lies. We confront the reality of what we've done, the damage we've caused, and the people we've hurt, including ourselves. There are moments when it feels like we're making progress, like we're finding our way back to each other. But there are also moments when the weight of everything threatens to crush us, when the anger and pain resurface, reminding us of just how far we've fallen. One night after a particularly difficult conversation, I find myself standing at the edge of our bed, looking down at Sarah as she sleeps. She looks so peaceful, so vulnerable, and for a moment, I'm overwhelmed by a surge of emotion. Love, guilt, regret, all tangled together in a knot that I can't untangle. I lie down beside her, careful not to wake her, and for the first time in a long time, I reach out to her, pulling her close. She stirs half awake and instinctively curls into me, her body fitting against mine as if we've never been apart. It feels right, comforting in a way I didn't expect. And as I hold her, I feel something shift inside me, a loosening of the tightness in my chest, a softening of the hard edges I've built around my heart. In the days that follow, we continue to rebuild, slowly, cautiously. It's not easy, and there are setbacks, moments when the past threatens to pull us back into the darkness, but we keep going, one step at a time, holding on to the fragile hope that we can find a way through this together. Then comes the trial. Sarah's boss is facing charges related to the scandals I helped expose, and Sarah is called as a witness. It's a tense, nerve-wracking time, and I can see the stress weighing on her, threatening to undo all the progress we've made. The night before the trial, Sarah is a wreck. She's pacing the living room, her anxiety palpable. "I don't know if I can do this," she says, her voice trembling. "I don't know what to say, what to do." I stand up and cross the room to her, taking her hands in mine. "You can do this," I say firmly. "You're stronger than you think." She looks up at me, her eyes wide and frightened. "What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make things worse?" "You won't," I reassure her. "Just tell the truth. That's all you need to do." The trial is a blur of tension and anxiety. Sarah takes the stand, her hands shaking as she swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I watch from the gallery, my heart in my throat, as she answers the prosecutor's questions, her voice steady but strained. The defense attorney tries to rattle her, to paint her as a willing participant in her boss's schemes, but Sarah holds her ground. She's honest, direct, and unwavering. And as I watch her, I feel a surge of pride. She's been through hell, but she's still standing, still fighting. When the trial is over and the verdict is read, guilty on all counts, I feel a strange mix of relief and emptiness. Justice has been served, but it doesn't erase the damage that's been done. It doesn't fix the broken pieces of our lives. As we leave the courthouse, Sarah and I walk side by side, the tension between us replaced by a quiet, tentative understanding. We've been through the worst, but we're still here, still holding on to the fragile hope that we can rebuild something from the ashes. That night, we sit together on the couch, the silence between us comfortable for the first time in what feels like forever. Sarah leans her head on my shoulder, and I wrap my arm around her, pulling her close. "I'm proud of you," I say quietly. "For everything." She doesn't respond with words, but I feel her relax against me, her body molding to mine in a way that feels right, natural. And in that moment, I realize that maybe, just maybe, we're going to be okay. The road ahead is still long, still uncertain, but for the first time, I feel like we're on the right path. We've both made mistakes, both caused each other unimaginable pain, but we're still here, still fighting for something worth saving. As the night wears on, and we sit together in the quiet, I feel a sense of peace settle over me. It's not complete, not by a long shot, but it's a start. We've faced the worst, and we've come out the other side. Scarred, yes, but still standing. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I'm not ready to give up. Not on Sarah, not on us, and not on the possibility of finding happiness again. And as we sit there holding on to each other, I finally feel like we've turned a corner, like we've found a way to start healing, to start moving forward. It's a long road ahead, but for the first time, I feel like we're walking it together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever comes next. It's not the ending I envisioned, but it's a beginning, a new beginning. And for now, that's enough. The final confrontation between Sarah and me feels inevitable, like a storm that's been brewing for too long. We've danced around it, tried to rebuild something out of the wreckage, but the truth keeps pulling us back to the edge of that cliff. Tonight, it all comes to a head. We're in the living room, the silence between us thick and heavy. The air is charged with tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle. I can feel the weight of everything we haven't said pressing down on us, and I know there's no avoiding it anymore. Sarah breaks the silence first. "We need to talk," she says, her voice steady but strained. There's a hardness in her eyes that wasn't there before, a resolve that matches my own. She's tired of pretending, of trying to plaster over the cracks in our lives. "Yeah," I reply, my voice tight. "We do." We sit down, facing each other, the coffee table between us like a barrier. She looks at me, really looks at me, and for a moment I see the woman I fell in love with, the woman I married. But that image is quickly replaced by the memories of what she's done, what we've both done. "I can't keep doing this," she says, her voice trembling. "I can't keep living in this limbo, pretending that we can just move on like nothing happened." I nod, the words she's saying echoing my own thoughts. "I know. We've been fooling ourselves, thinking we could just patch things up and go back to the way things were. But we can't," she says, and there's a finality in her tone that hits me hard. "We're not the same people we were before. We've both changed." "Yeah, we have," I agree, my voice barely above a whisper. The anger that's fueled me for so long is still there, but it's muted now, overshadowed by something deeper. Regret, maybe even guilt. I don't even recognize myself anymore. She reaches out, hesitates, then pulls her hand back. "I made a mistake," she says, her voice cracking. "A terrible mistake, and I've paid for it, more than I ever imagined. But what you did, the way you destroyed everything, I don't know if I can ever forgive that." Her words cut deep, but they're true. I've been holding on to my own pain, my own sense of betrayal, without considering the pain I've caused her. I set out to destroy her, to make her suffer, and I succeeded. But in doing so, I've also destroyed any chance we had of rebuilding our lives. "I didn't do it for forgiveness," I say, my voice rough. "I did it because I was hurt, because I wanted you to feel what I felt. But all I did was make everything worse." She nods, tears welling up in her eyes. "We've both made mistakes, and now we're paying the price. But we can't keep doing this to each other. It's killing us." Her words hang in the air, and I know she's right. We can't keep tearing each other apart. We need to make a decision. Either we find a way to move forward together, or we walk away for good. "What do you want?" I ask, my voice raw with emotion. "Do you want to try again? To rebuild? Or do you want to end this?" She hesitates, the weight of the decision evident in her eyes. "I don't know," she admits. "Part of me wants to try, to see if we can find a way to make this work. But another part of me wonders if it's even possible, if we're just fooling ourselves." Her honesty is like a punch to the gut, but I appreciate it. I need her to be honest, just as I need to be honest with myself. "I want to try," I say, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "I don't know if we can fix this, but I want to try. I still love you, Sarah. Despite everything, I still love you." Tears spill down her cheeks, and she looks at me with a mixture of hope and despair. "I love you too," she whispers, "but love might not be enough. We've both been through so much, done so much damage. I don't know if we can come back from that." I reach out, taking her hand in mine, and for a moment, we just sit there, holding on to each other as if we're both drowning. "Maybe we can't," I say quietly, "but I'm willing to try, if you are." She squeezes my hand, her grip firm despite the tears. "Okay," she says, her voice trembling. "Let's try." It's a tentative agreement, a fragile hope, but it's something. And for now, it's enough. The days that follow are filled with difficult conversations, raw emotions, and tentative steps toward healing. We lay everything bare. No more secrets, no more lies. We talk about the affair, about my revenge, about the pain we've both caused and the people we've hurt. It's brutal, but it's necessary. If we're going to move forward, we need to face the truth, no matter how painful it is. There are moments when it feels like we're making progress, when the walls between us start to come down. But there are also moments when the weight of everything threatens to crush us, when the anger and hurt resurface, pulling us back into the darkness. It's a constant battle, one we're not always sure we're winning. One night, after a particularly intense argument, we find ourselves in the kitchen, the air between us still charged with tension. Sarah is standing by the counter, her arms wrapped around herself, and I can see the exhaustion in her eyes. "I'm sorry," I say, the words feeling inadequate but necessary. "I didn't mean to hurt you." She looks at me, her expression softening. "I know," she says quietly. "I'm sorry too. This is hard. Harder than I thought it would be." "Yeah," I agree, my voice heavy with the weight of everything we're going through. "But we're still here. That has to count for something, right?" She nods, a small, sad smile tugging at her lips. "It does," she says. "It counts for a lot." We stand there in silence for a moment, the tension between us easing, and I feel a flicker of hope, small but real. We're still fighting, still trying, and maybe that's enough. As the days turn into weeks, we continue to rebuild, one small step at a time. It's not easy, and there are setbacks, moments when the past threatens to pull us back into the darkness. But we keep going, holding on to the fragile hope that we can find a way through this together. Then comes the day when Sarah asks me a question that catches me off guard. We're sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, the air warm and still. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" she asks, her voice soft but filled with uncertainty. I don't have an easy answer. I've asked myself the same question countless times, and I still don't know. But as I look at her, at the woman I've loved and hurt and fought for, I realize that maybe okay isn't the goal anymore. I don't know, I admit, but I think we're on our way to something different. Maybe not what we had before, but something new. Something that's just as good, maybe even better. She looks at me, her eyes searching mine, and I can see the hope there, fragile but growing. "I want that," she says quietly. "I want to find that something new." "Then we will," I say, and for the first time, I truly believe it. We'll find it together. We sit there in the fading light, holding hands, and for a moment, everything feels right. It's not perfect, and it never will be, but it's real, and it's ours. As the night falls, we go back inside, the air between us lighter, filled with the possibility of something new. We've been through hell, but we've come out the other side. Scarred, yes, but still standing. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of calm that I haven't felt in a long time. Sarah is still asleep beside me, her breathing steady, her face peaceful. I watch her for a moment, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, casting a warm glow over her. I reach out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face, and she stirs, opening her eyes to look at me. There's a softness there, a tenderness that fills me with a quiet joy. "Good morning," she says, her voice soft and warm. "Good morning," I reply, my heart swelling with a mix of emotions, love, hope, and a deep sense of contentment. We lie there in silence, just holding on to each other, and for the first time, I feel like we're truly on the right path. The road ahead is still long, still uncertain, but I'm ready to walk it, with Sarah by my side. And as I hold her close, I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it together. We've been through the worst and we've come out stronger for it. The past will always be a part of us, but it doesn't have to define us. We have a future, and it's ours to build. As we start our day, I feel a sense of peace that I haven't felt in a long time. The storm has passed, and while the damage remains, we're still here, still standing. And that, more than anything, gives me hope for what's to come. It's not the ending I envisioned, but it's a new beginning. And for now, that's enough. I sit alone in the quiet of the living room, the dim light from the lamp casting long shadows across the walls. The house feels different now, emptier somehow, even though Sarah is still here. She's upstairs sleeping, or at least trying to. We've talked, we've fought, we've cried. But despite everything, the wounds between us remain deep, the scars still fresh. I think back to how this all started. The anger, the betrayal, the need for revenge that consumed me. I wanted to destroy her, to make her feel the same pain I felt when I discovered the affair. I wanted her to suffer, and I succeeded. But now as I sit here in the silence, I realize that in trying to break her, I've broken myself too. The journey we've been on has changed me. I'm not the same man I was before, and I can never go back to being that person. I've seen the darkness within myself, and I've embraced it. Let it guide my actions. Let it poison everything I once held dear. But where has it left me? Alone, empty, haunted by the choices I've made. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me. The house is a constant reminder of what we've lost, of the life we once had. Every room, every piece of furniture holds memories, some good, some bad, but all tainted by what's happened. I close my eyes trying to push the thoughts away, but they linger, refusing to be silenced. Sarah and I have made a decision, but it's not one that comes easily. We've decided to try again, to rebuild something out of the ashes of our past. But even as we've agreed to this, I can't help but wonder if we're just delaying the inevitable. Can we really move forward, or are we just fooling ourselves, clinging to something that's already dead? The truth is, I don't know. I don't know if I can ever truly forgive her, or if she can forgive me. We've both done things that can't be undone, caused pain that can't be erased. The trust that was once the foundation of our marriage has been shattered, and no matter how hard we try, the pieces don't fit together the way they used to. But even with all these doubts, there's a part of me that wants to believe we can make it work. I want to believe that the love we once had is still there, buried beneath the hurt and the anger. I want to believe that we can find a way to heal, to build something new, something stronger. But wanting and believing are two different things, and I'm not sure which one will win out in the end. I get up from the couch and walk over to the window, looking out at the dark, empty street. The world outside feels as cold and desolate as the one inside me. I've always been a man of action, someone who takes control of his life, who makes things happen. But now I feel powerless, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Sarah and I are trying, but the road ahead is long and fraught with obstacles. Every day is a struggle, every conversation a reminder of what we've lost. We're both scared, scared of what the future holds, scared of the past that haunts us. But more than anything, we're scared of losing each other for good. I hear a noise behind me and turn to see Sarah standing at the bottom of the stairs. She's wrapped in a blanket, her face pale and tired, but there's a softness in her eyes that wasn't there before. "Can't sleep?" she asks, her voice gentle. I shake my head. Too much on my mind. She walks over to me, standing beside me at the window. For a moment, we just look out at the night, the silence between us comfortable, familiar. It's in these quiet moments that I feel closest to her, when the noise of our thoughts and fears fades away, leaving just us together. "I've been thinking," she says after a while, her voice tentative, "about everything we've been through, everything we've done." "Me too," I reply, my voice low. "It's hard not to." She nods, and for a moment neither of us speaks. Then she turns to me, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. "Do you think we can do it? Do you think we can really move on from this?" I don't answer right away. I don't want to lie to her, don't want to give her false hope, but I also don't want to give up, not when we've come this far. "I don't know," I finally say, my voice honest, raw, "but I want to try. I don't want to lose you, Sarah." "Not again." She looks at me, and in that moment, I see the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. The woman who made me laugh, who stood by my side through thick and thin, who was my partner in everything. That woman is still there, beneath the pain and the regret, and I realize that I'm still in love with her, despite everything. I don't want to lose you either, she says, her voice breaking. I want to believe we can do this, that we can find a way to be happy again. But I'm scared, so scared that we're just setting ourselves up for more pain. I reach out and take her hand, squeezing it gently. I'm scared too, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it means we still care, that we still have something worth fighting for. She looks at me, her eyes searching mine, and for a moment I see a flicker of hope, of determination. Then let's fight, she says, her voice firm. Let's fight for us, for what we had, for what we can have. I nod, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It's not a solution, not a magic fix, but it's a start. And right now, that's all we can ask for. We stand there together, holding hands, looking out at the night. The future is uncertain, and the road ahead is still long and difficult. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're on the same side, like we're facing the challenges together, not apart. As the first light of dawn breaks through the darkness, I feel a sense of calm, of peace. It's not the end of our journey, but it's a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to start over. We've been through hell, but we've come out the other side stronger, more resilient. We're not the same people we were before, and maybe that's a good thing. We've been tested, pushed to our limits, and we've survived. And now as we stand here together, I realize that we have a chance, a real chance, to build something new, something better. It won't be easy. There will be days when the past threatens to pull us back, when the pain and the anger resurface. But I'm ready to face those days, to fight for the future we want, the future we deserve. As the sun rises, casting a warm glow over everything, I turn to Sarah and pull her into my arms. She melts into me, her body fitting against mine, as if we've never been apart. And in that moment, I know that we're going to be okay. We've made our decision, and now it's up to us to see it through. The journey ahead is still uncertain, but I'm ready to walk it, with Sarah by my side, hand in hand. We've been through so much, lost so much, but we've also gained something, an understanding of ourselves, of each other, of what it means to truly love, to truly forgive. We're scarred, yes, but those scars are a part of who we are now, a reminder of what we've overcome. As we stand there, wrapped in each other's arms, I feel a sense of hope, of possibility. The past will always be a part of us, but it doesn't have to define us. We have a future, and it's ours to build. And as we take the first steps on this new journey, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that we can find our way back to each other. Hope that we can build something new, something stronger. Hope that, despite everything, we can find happiness again. It's not the ending I envisioned, but it's a new beginning. And for now, that's enough.